now for the next panel, we will welcome Jess, CEO of Wallet Connect, Philipp, CEO of LI.FI, and Julian, co-founder of idOS. And the panel will be moderated by Réka, co-founder of Plug.
Welcome everybody to this panel. I'm Réka, I'm co-founder of Plug and Guild XYZ previously. Plug is a transaction automation tool in a plug-and-play interface. We'll start with introductions and then we'll get into discussion. I'll try to make them fight as well because I know everybody loves that. Maybe not. No. Chill. We're going to be tame. So we're joined here by Jess, CEO Wallet Connect. Do you want to say a few sentences about yourself?
I can, yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm the CEO at Wallet Connect. My name is Jess Houlgrave. Wallet Connect started as an open source protocol in 2018 to connect apps and wallets. If you've used a Web3 app and connected your wallet, a mobile wallet, this is a high chance that you've used our protocol. We serve about 600 different wallets, over 6,000 different applications to provide this end-to-end encrypted messaging layer. And then on top of that, we build SDKs for app builders so that they can make onboarding new users and existing users easier. And we provide a lot of functionality within that. And yeah, very excited to talk about this. I have a payments background, and so anything finance I also like to geek out about.
You also just recently launched the app kit, right?
We did, yes,
Plug?
Exactly. Thank you. The reminder, my marketing team will thank you.
Exactly.
AppKit is a developer SDK for apps. It's got things like on-ramps, swaps, embedded email wallets for end users who are new to crypto on board, and a lot of functionality within there for new users and for app developers. One of the things that we do a lot of is standards building, both at the network level, and then we partner also with a lot of chains on implementing new standards, things like permissions and session keys and things like that. So a lot of that you'll see in AppKit to create new user experiences.
Very excited about that as a builder myself. Philipp, please introduce yourself.
Hey, thank you. Oh, hello? No. Does that work? Hi. I'm Philipp. I'm the founder and CEO of LI.FI. LI.FI is short for Linked Finance. We are a multi-chain liquidity aggregator, so a layer on top of the 1inches, 0x, and so on. And we also aggregate all these cross-chain bridges. As such, we are kind of abstracting away trading, right? And we are serving over 350 B2B partners, including MetaMask, Phantom, like 30 of the 15 largest wallets worldwide are using us. Robinhood is using us, Brave browser. Wherever you're trading, these companies are using us to just cope with the short innovation cycles we have in the liquidity market. We are 60 people by now, growing pretty fast, and you might have used Jumper.exchange, which is our B2C interface, and yeah, we have around 300 widget integrations as well, so plenty of dApps are using us for bridging and swapping on their dApps so that users don't have to leave the website, and yeah, thanks.
Also a little compliment, they're insane at trying all the community tooling and social tooling for their community, which I think has contributed a lot to the social growth. So good job, team. Please, Julian.
Yeah, I'm Julian. We are building the idOS. We've been in identity for quite some time, so you might have interacted with Fractal before, where we onboarded over 1.2 million users, all core Web3 in the past couple of years. And we wanted to build a tooling that is a decentralized storage and access management layer to actually get rid of those 1.2 million users from our centralized servers.
Thank you very much. So the title of our panel is Bridging Liquidity and People. So we're going to try to talk about topics that are in privacy, because we just covered that, but kind of explore our use cases and our best case scenarios for bringing finance and DeFi and liquidity to the masses. So interoperability has been a huge, massive buzzword in the couple years that we've been through together in DeFi. And we have made a bunch of progress on aggregating bridges, swaps, and liquidity across chains, layer ones and layer twos, and collectively building open finance infrastructure such as self-custodial wallets and crypto fiat payment rails and decentralized identity solutions that actually bring it more ownership to the people who hold crypto assets, because that's what we would like to do, is to have more people own these assets. And we're going to talk about best case scenario first. So Julian, I'd like to ask you, you're a big evangelist for OpenFi. What's your dream scenario? Why is this so important?
I mean, I started my career in 2008 at Deutsche Bank, and that was 3 days before Lehman Brothers collapsed. Like literally, I'm not making this up. And so we were there in Frankfurt, and naive in multiple ways. And my biggest naivete was that I thought that it's a meritocratic space, because it's like trading, you know, you're just smart and then you make it. Little did I know about banking, and ever since I wanted to try to see what we can do, bring open finance, bring open source into finance. So I studied at the university and did early research on crowdfunding. And so when the whole ICO boom popped up, everyone was interested, excited. And the thing that made me excited was that the tooling that was underneath it, I knew was never going to go away. And I mean, this is my 7th year now in that space. And I'm very happy that actually the whole OpenFi trend is popping up, because otherwise I'm not sure how much longer I would have been able to bear it, seeing like another meme coin season being popped in before we actually do something meaningful.
I will ask both of you also for best case scenarios, so we can dig into the nitty-gritty after. Jess, please. Like, what's dream for OpenFi?
Yeah, so I think when I think about like what this technology can bring to us, I think it's many things, and most of that boils down to like choice and control. By that I mean like choice over the providers that we choose to interact with, choice over the assets that we want to hold, access to finance that previously has been restricted to other people, and then control over who we share our data with and how we share our data. And so this might be a bit broader than just OpenFi, but I think like best case scenario is a world where like self-custody is a human right, and people have the right to hold their assets, where wallets and the way that we use them can become a place that not only do we store assets and trade coins, but that we can also control our identity, choose who we share that with. We can control our payments, how we interact with e-commerce, and where we kind of reinstate this idea. I don't like the word sovereign, because people misspell it and people have different ideas of what it means, but I like the idea that we can reinstate some place where we have choice and control over our assets and who we are. And by doing this, we reduce the ability of like rent-seeking entities to extract value without really providing value. And I think when you look at finance today, it's like very, very broken. I have the payments angle on it mostly. It's very broken when you try to send $100 cross-border to somebody who's like done some work and they end up with $75 in their bank account 2.5 weeks later. This is not the world that I want to see, and so I think that a lot of what's being built at the moment lays the foundations for that to change.
A follow-up question before we get into yours. No, not yet. Follow-up question to you is, where do you see that being interfacing with the user? Is it more of a wallet type of interface, or, because this is a lot of nice things that we would love to have. So where would we interface with this as users?
So I think actually there's sort of both the wallet and the app are important in this environment. And by app, I mean any application that people are interacting with. And I think that these will become much more interoperable than we've seen historically. A lot of the standards work sets the scene for that, where I'm using the wallet effectively to be the place that I can sign transactions and authorize things. But in today's world, when you interact with a wallet, I don't know if you've ever done this, but you like go on a program, you try and do things, you have to go back to your wallet, authorize it, you go back to the app, you authorize it again. It's really fucking painful. And I think that like the evolution of smart accounts on Ethereum and on other chains, there are things that are equivalent, give you the ability to do things like delegated permission setting to applications. So I can say to an application, I will authorize this amount to be paid. You can basically now start to do things like subscription payments or rolling payments. I can set time limits on the amount of time that an app can access my thing. So I'm getting all of this control. And I think those controls will be surfaced both in the application when I'm deciding on what it is that I want to give to people, but also I'll have this like central place that will be delivered by my wallet interface where I can manage that. Different wallets will provide different things to end users, but I do think that we'll exist in this kind of two-factor world, but the way that those people will communicate with each other will be standardized, and so you'll be able to create very like custom controls over these things.
Thank you. Philipp, your turn about best case scenario.
So I agree with the both of them. What furthermore excites me is the technical aspect. So 14 years ago, I was CTO of a Philippine startup, and I had to punch together Asian payment gateways. And it was an absolute mess. It was horrible to implement, maintain, and homogenize the data and status handling of all of that. It was the pain. So what excites me is the interoperability, the composability we're creating here, like a shared global payment and transaction rail will allow the whole globe to essentially reinvent finance on their own, and like that technical capability is amazing to me. Like reducing market entry barriers for developers to build financial applications on any level. This is really something that excites me to the core. That's just one thing to add on top of what has been said already.
You and me both.
Réka, the problem here is that you're talking to actual nerds, I think.
We're
has
all
kind
nerds,
of
don't
been
worry.
popularized to be like a nice term, but usually it means like people getting excited about what everyone else considers to be extremely boring topics, right? And I think this is exactly
Like,
the
yay,
case
money
here.
across the world.
But to show how important it is, in my opinion, is if you're looking at industries by profit margin, you are seeing monopolies like Google, Facebook, etc. That are just like, we own all the users, so we're going to tell you how much you pay us for marketing. Great. Right at the same stage is finance with 30% as well. And then you have nothing. And then the next are like slotting in at a 15%, going all the way down to 4% profit margin. So it's just daylight stealing to a degree, because there are those small kingdoms where they're just like, well, you want to pass through my kingdom, pay up. And getting rid of that is so abstract, but it's happening now. And if you have been in that space and you see this, that is just super exciting.
I think this is where we're not really fighting enough, but sorry everybody, but I think you're right, and I think the reason that a lot of people think that this is really boring stuff is because they're told that like this is just the status quo and you can't change it, right? Like it's really ingrained in us that like this is just the way that finance works, and so people stop questioning it and it's just accepted. And so I think this is why this is so exciting, because it's actually going to change things. And then I think as soon as you start to embed that thought in people that like, this isn't how it has to be forever, I think more people become geeks and want to actually change things.
I think we also spoke about this term hyper financialization, like that there will be like everything will be monetized. Kind of, so now this discussion can take a different turn in a sense by saying this is like the absolute zenith of capitalism, what we're building here.
I usually say just hyper-capitalistic.
Yeah.
As a word for that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's kind of hyper-capitalistic what we are building, because this will actually allow to monetize everything in a way that has never been possible before. So interesting to see how that was going to play out and what that will do to society.
all three of their eyes, your guys are not close enough, but they're so like sparkling and full of light that these guys are genuinely so excited about this. I have no heart breaking this, so I'll continue the positive, wholesome moderation here, and we'll go rather into like, I'd like all of you to say one really exciting, you got into this a little bit, Julian, but a really exciting small use case that is giving you hope that this is already happening, that you see that crypto or crypto adjacent technologies are being used revolutionary ways, that you're like, yes, it's going on. We're going in the right direction. Philipp, would you start?
Oh, for me, it's coming. So I used to work in biotech before, and for me, it's actually own the ability to own and share my data on chain when it comes to genomic and transcriptomic data and my patient record. If I can make that available to clinical studies and all of that, this is amazing, because now in the age of AI, we're gonna need more data, more structured data, and someone doing that, like Molecule and Beta DAO and this whole DeSci ecosystem. For me, this is like the most exciting use case, like far away from payments, but all about how can we make this a structured effort, and the blockchain is just one way to do it, because it's so hard to find structured data around genomic information. So we need to solve that globally. And so we need a way to just incentivize people globally to do so. And that's where a blockchain has a clear benefit over a regular database.
Jess, please.
I guess I'm most excited by like the evolution that we're seeing in the onboarding process, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, but things like smart accounts, where it's just much easier for people to access crypto in a way that like doesn't involve that thing that we probably all did, where you like set up a wallet and then you put the seed phrase under your bed and then you wonder if it's gonna go up in flames, and then you probably lose it and you have to go to another exchange to onboard and then send that money. It's like really painful. And I think that what gives me hope is, firstly, so many people in my team come from places where like crypto is deeply, deeply meaningful to them, because they're parts of the world that the institutions are failing faster than everywhere else. And I think institutions around the world are failing, but in some places more than others. And I have great people in my team and who I meet all the time who say like, the only reason that like I'm able to do what I do, or that my family is still alive, or X, Y, and Z, is because of crypto. And the fact that we can onboard people more easily into this, I think is really, really important. There's so many great examples of this. Like one I love at the moment is Peanut, where I can literally like send a link to somebody who's never used crypto before via text or via email. They can click on that link and suddenly they automatically have a wallet. They can use that in any environment. If they want to convert it back into fiat, they can. But like, this is like how I go around like trying to get people onto crypto. And it makes so much more sense than it did like 2 years ago, where if I wanted to get somebody into crypto, I'd have to explain all of those previous things. It's really painful. So it sounds really simple, but I think simplifying the onboarding and the security experience for people is just going to open up this like first step, which is then the gateway to all of this other stuff that we talk about. But that first step of like, I can actually hold crypto really easily, sometimes I think we take for granted how difficult that can be.
Thank you. Julian?
Mine is Monerium, because it's the first app that I used that had this OpenFi use case, and I could actually use it, and it was actually secured and owned on chain, and that blew my mind.
Heavy user too. I'm a heavy user of Monerium too.
Yeah.
Absolutely great.
Like the OG in that space. The first thing that really worked. Was pretty impressive.
All right. We have 6 minutes. Do you guys want to take questions, or should we? Yeah, let's do audience questions. Can we do that? Is that allowed? Excellent. Then we can open up. Think about questions around interoperability, challenges, about their favorite projects that they just mentioned. Big shout out to Peanut also, by the way. I also really like that. Like the food.
So I think the question was what my opinion is about fragmented liquidity across multiple ecosystems. So first of all, it will continue to exist. The way the space has to scale is horizontally, like databases mostly, right? And so we first have the necessity to keep on launching new chains in order to keep up with the growth. Hopefully the future potential growth, because right now we have more block space than we have demand. But that being said, there is a huge economic incentive too to fragment liquidity, and at the same time, we won't see like one bridging standard anytime soon, because there's so many players with huge treasuries that try to establish their own standards, like layer 0 with their OFTs and Wormhole with their entities and and Axelar with their own system, and there's so much going on. And then we have stable coins that are trying to establish themselves as the messaging layer as well, like Circle, and we can anticipate Tether to launch something similar soon. So yeah, I mean, for us as a company, that's gold. For the ecosystem, it's obviously not good. In a sense, if it needs a company to combat that, like us, that's it, it has plus and minus to it. I would also say leaving space for innovation is always good. Imagine we would have a standard now and everyone would go with it. It would be so hard to change, right? As long as everything is fragmented, not only on the liquidity side, but also on the infrastructure side, we still have a chance to keep on improving. And as new technologies come up, as zero-knowledge technologies, cryptographic research is coming out, AI technology is coming out, we actually keep up that openness of the system and have the ability to iterate and continue iterating. It's kind of also good. So yeah, that's my opinion, like in a neutral way, but definitely excited.
One more. If you guys don't have, I have more up on my sleeve. So I'd like to, we only have a couple minutes, but I'd like to have more of a rapid fire of biggest interoperability problems and what we need to build, what you're focusing on as your own companies towards this bigger vision. Like what is top of mind to reach that goal? First step on the roadmap. Jess, please.
For me, I guess at Wallet Connect, connecting wallets and apps, I think that the future is, we've got many more types of wallets out there, different wallets who serve different user groups for different things. The user research tells us this also. I don't want to store my life savings in the same place that I buy my coffee. And also we're going to have thousands more applications online, because ultimately like the whole internet is going to be underpinned by this technology at some point. And so when we think about interoperability, what we work on is the standards that allow the communication between those two to take place. And those standards today are kind of limited. They're around connection and authorizing and signing transactions and things like that. But actually, there's an awful lot more that can be layered on there to create great user experiences. So the ability to send off-chain data about what you're purchasing in an e-commerce flow, or thinking about transmission of KYC data, and all of these other things. And so I think, this interoperability extends to like every single way that I as a user want to interact with any on-chain application.
It's a very, very big question that like involves even regulatory identity, everything. Philipp, please.
I have two things. One is better dev tooling, chain agnostic developer tooling. We need that. It's just too hard to build multi-chain from the get-go, and then there are too many biased, opinionated solutions out there. We need more actual open source software that allows us to build chain agnostic. On the other side, there's a second thing we need. We need greater professionalism around APIs. I've never. It's horrible. People are rushing it to the market to get market share, to get the next financing round. And I've never seen, like, we're still building financial applications for that. Like, just have some respect, It's still people's money we're losing and whatever. It's just like the amount of breaking changes we are facing in APIs. Feel like these guys have never seen any standards around Zentner or whatever. There are so many standards out there on how to build RESTful APIs, and people are just not caring enough about that. And we would be somewhere else if these APIs would be better to rely on. So that's something I'm praying for.
Sign up to their school that's starting soon around how to build better APIs, coming next season. Julian, please.
I think it's always where you have tricky problems that are not well paid. So if you're close to the transaction, then it's easy to just take a cut. But if you're doing identity, like, how are you going to finance that, right? Like, is it going to be like $100 for each onboarding? That's obviously not going to work. Not surprisingly, I think it's identity that is a big bottleneck. The second is the execution of wet-ink contracts. So executing what we have been thinking about on-chain, what should happen, and making sure that this also happens in real life. And this is something that we haven't even started solving to the largest degree. So if I have an on-chain loan, suddenly that person is in the Philippines, how can I also make sure that there are that the loan is being paid back? That is a very tricky and future problem.
Huge. That you're working on, or sort of. Yes. Thank you so much. We're coming to the end. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. You guys did a great job. And congrats to you guys for marathoning 2 panels at once without leaving. Good job. Thank you so much. And cue to our next panel.